The International Wetlands Day marks the anniversary of the signing of the Convention on Wetlands of International Importance, otherwise known as the Ramsar Convention. It was founded on 2nd February 1971 in Ramsar city in Iran. Kenya has been a signatory of the Ramsar Convention since 1992. Thereafter, celebrations for World Wetlands Day in Kenya began in 1997 to raise public awareness on the importance of wetlands, their values and benefits to the country.
We are party to the Ramsar Convention, which is the convention that speaks to the need to conserve and protect and make wise use of our wetlands and their attendant resources. When you talk about wetlands, you are talking about critical water sources. You're talking about swamps, you're talking about marshes, you're talking about our rivers and lakes and their riparian areas.
Nearly 90% of the world's wetlands have been degraded since the 1700s. The world is losing wetlands 3 times faster than forests. Yet, wetlands are critically important ecosystems that contribute to biodiversity, climate mitigation and adaptation, freshwater availability, world economies and more. According to the Global Wetlands Outlook published in 2021, Ramsar Convention 2021, it's reported that although wetlands still cover a global area of 1.2 billion hectares, they are declining fast, with 35% losses of natural wetlands since 1970.
We have encroachments, people have farmed in wetlands, people have destroyed the wetlands, and you remember that is where the source of our rivers is. It is the source where we get clean waters to every other part of the country. So there is a big problem on the wetlands.
The degradation of our wetlands has a lot to contribute to the floods that we are seeing occurring. They contribute to the droughts and the floods at the same time. Because as we damage our wetlands, we damage the water table of our wetlands. So what you have is runoffs. And that runoff is what contributes to the flooding.
Kenya has been marking this day to highlight the need for identification, conservation and protection of wetlands, which occupy 4% of the national landscape.
Somehow, our populations have taken wetlands to be some free-for-all land area to be grabbed, and even the utilization of wetland resources is very unsustainable.
The theme for this year's day is wetlands and human well-being, and the clarion call for healthy wetlands for healthy communities. This serves as a rallying call of our interconnectedness with nature by protecting and restoring the wetlands. Wetland celebrations in Kenya have been marked for several years. In 2021, the event was marked as Sabaki Estuary in Kilifi County. In 2022, the day was celebrated at Ondiri Swamp in Kikuyu, Kiambu County, while last year it was celebrated in Nkongu Nkare in Narok County. On 22nd November 2023, the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry launched the Wetlands Restoration Strategy. The National Environment Management Authority NEMA, through the strategy, initiated the restoration process following environmental and scientific studies as the country's wetlands landscape faced massive destruction as a result of human and animal encroachment.
Wetlands were considered as wastelands. And for those who can remember, there was a deliberate effort to reclaim wetlands in the late 60s and 70s. Part of the eucalyptus species that were introduced into this country were meant to reclaim wetlands, basically to dry them up, to provide for either farming or settlements. Since then, science information has evolved, and the centrality of wetlands in landscape restoration has been realized. And that is why that shift to basically conserve wetlands, because they form a critical and important part of the landscape restoration.
NEMA, in partnership with partners, we were able to map out over 10,000 wetlands in our country. In the recent past, we've protected a number of wetlands. We started with the Lake Olbolo site in Nyandarua. We've done management plan for Lake Olbolo site, and we've gazetted Lake Olbolo site. We've also done a wetland in Narok called Ekong Enkare, where we fenced. Now you see a lot of natural regeneration that has taken place, and communities can now access clean water for domestic and also for their livestock. In partnership with WRA, we fenced Ondiri, and also NEMA has done an information center at Ondiri to ensure that the public gets information on the protection of wetlands. We've also done 2 wetlands in North Or in Marsabit County called Origuda and Tinigo. This is well protected now, and communities are accessing pasture and fodder during drought. It's a drought fallback area for the local communities in Marsabit. There is robust public engagement around Q in Makueni County to ensure that we also protect Q and gazette Q. A number of wetlands have been lined up for protection soon.
The launch of the Wetlands Restoration Strategy was geared towards boosting the government's effort to plant and grow 15 billion trees by 2032.
Wetland restoration is a low-hanging fruit and plays a very critical role towards our achievement of our 15 billion tree growing initiative, because this is where we have natural water already, and we do not have to wait for rain to plant trees around our wetlands. So that makes it a very catchy segment of our strategy.
NEMA, through its board of directors, has played a key role in providing guidance to various government agencies and county governments.
How the board collaborates with the stakeholders is in the mapping of the wetlands. First is the ownership of the land, and it is clear that quite a number of these wetlands fall within private lands, and therefore we have to bring on board those owners of land. The wetlands appear out there in the counties, and therefore county governments become very critical stakeholders in the conservation and management of the wetlands. And the kind of collaboration that as a board we are encouraging management to get into is first to enable access for protection, but also institute measures that would reduce encroachment and reduction of those wetlands.
NEMA, in collaboration with other agencies within the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, rolled out the Adopt a Wetland initiative. The initiative is to enhance wetlands restoration and conservation through establishment of lead champions for wetlands conservation through tree growing within the wetland areas in the 47 counties. This year's campaign spotlights how interconnected wetlands and human life are, with people drawing sustenance, inspiration and resilience from these productive ecosystems. Importantly, the theme for 2024 underscores how all aspects of human well-being are tied to the health of the world's wetlands. It calls on each of us to value and steward wetlands. In Kenya, the event will be held at Lake Narasha in Timboroa Dam in Uasin, Gishu County.
We have also worked out with the other county governments, and our county directors of environment will work closely and celebrate the World Wetlands Day in their respective counties.
The wetland restoration efforts are expected to yield immense benefits in the long term, such as contribution to the attainment of the 15 billion trees national target by 2032, improved wetlands ecological integrity, as well as improved provision of ecosystem services from targeted wetlands, among other benefits.
So what I would want to urge Kenyans in this International Day on Wetlands, let us take responsibility. The litmus test for me and the ministry and the county government of Makueni is securing Q wetland, for example. But you find people holding titles right by the riverbanks. Those Kenyans should just own up, come straight, return those titles to the Ministry of Lands. Otherwise, we will have to revoke them, because I know they don't even have the audacity to defend why they are holding titles right by the riverbanks. And they are contributing to the depletion of our water tables, creating floods, and not to mention the droughts.